My dear students, we will go through the chapter Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom, written by Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, to prepare for the exam. Now the story. Nelson Mandela was sworn in as the first black head of state, South Africa, on 10th May 1994. It was after years of struggle that his anti-racist party came into power. Until then, the seat had always been occupied by white presidents. That is why the author referred to the day as bright and clear. It was a morning full of hope. Days before this date, many notable personalities started congratulating him for his victory. For the first time in the country's history, so many international leaders came together for their inauguration ceremony. The ceremony took place in an open circular building made of sandstone consisting of union buildings in the Pretoria city. The author was accompanied by his daughter Zenani on his big day. First, the two vice presidents took an oath. Then was his turn. He committed to respect, protect, and abide by the Constitution and to devote his entire self into the welfare of the country. The author said that everyone's presence was giving rise to hope for a new beginning. According to him, previous rulers were discriminatory and lasted for long, but the ones who would rule now would stand up against discrimination. He was glad to host a ceremony with the presence of global leaders. It was an achievement in itself. There was a time when South Africa had lost all the international political relationships. Now there was no segregation on the basis of race and gender. So other nations were happy to have healthy democratic relationships. He thanked everyone, especially the international leaders, for joining them in celebrating their achievement, which is a step towards a society where everyone would be treated fairly. His government promised to free everyone of the still existing poverty, hardship, and inequalities of all kinds, along with the assurance that no community would be considered inferior. He hoped freedom to reign, and may God shower his blessings on their land. Just after the newly elected president's address, an impressive arrangement of fighter jets, helicopter, and soldier transporters raised everyone's head up in the sky. These symbolized perfection, respect, and obedience towards the free country. The high commanders who had won medals for their bravery also saluted and promised their loyalty. Mandela said that the commanders who were saluting him now would have arrested him under the previous rule. The air show came to an end with the making of the South African flag in the sky with smoke that was released from the jets. The author remembered the day as the playing of two national anthems of the country, one of the whites and the other of the blacks. On that day, no one knew the wordings of the anthem of the blacks. But Mandela was confident that everyone would soon learn this anthem that they once hated. On that day of the inaugural ceremony, the author recalled the days of the past when this whole system of apartheid emerged. It resulted in inequality and inferior treatment of dark-skinned people. They were deprived of their basic fundamental rights. As a result, one of the world's most brutal and inhuman society was born. This began even before he was born. This system created an atmosphere of extreme cruelty and injustice for a particular part of the community. This equal and free country was a result of sacrifices of countless other men and women who had fought all their lives for this day. The author wished to thank them all, but unfortunately, they all didn't live to see the result of their courage. The operation policy scared many people, and it took a long time for them to move on. Thus, it required that level of unjust treatment to produce such great heroes. He said that South Africa was rich in minerals and gems, but its greatest strength was the people. Nelson Mandela gained his strength from all the great nationalists who risked their lives for freedom and tolerated ill treatment, but never stopped fighting. He learned that courage didn't mean the absence of fear, but the ability to overcome fear. It is the author's view that one is taught by its society to hate humans because of their skin, color, age, gender, and religion. No one is inborn with hatred. The author's idea was that if people could be taught hatred, then they could also be taught love and brotherhood. When Mandela was in prison, he was treated brutally, but a pinch of humanity and kindness in one of the guards was enough to keep him going. He believed that goodness in human beings could be suppressed but never eliminated. According to the author, every human being had the responsibility towards his family and the society. Generally, under normal circumstances, a person could maintain the balance between the two. But in countries like South Africa, it was never so easy. When a colored person came forward for his rights, he was arrested and taken away from his family, thus keeping him from fulfilling both responsibilities. Mandela had to even compromise his duties towards his family in order to be there for his people. The author never had any plan to stand against the apartheid system early in his life. He lived his childhood like any normal child in South Africa, He only had to follow the rules set up by his father. But as soon as he grew up and began to learn the facts as to how people of color were treated, he decided to fight against it. He had the urge for freedom early in his life just for himself, and later this urge was for everybody. In Johannesburg, people had to struggle for a peaceful life like marriage, family, and basic amenities, which everyone has access to where law and order exists. Nelson Mandela joined the African National Congress (ANC), after which he realized that it was not only him whose basic rights were snatched, but of all those who looked like him. The fire inside him to free his people changed his life. He became brave, broke the law in spite of being a lawyer, and lived a life like a monk in spite of having a family. He could not enjoy the freedom that was provided to him because his people were not free. He knew that freedom was indivisible. Chain on any one person meant chain on all the people, including him. He mentioned the need to free the oppressor as that of the oppressed, as the oppressor is bound by the shackles of hatred. He carries the curse of all the tormented people. He becomes a prisoner of biasness. Hence, he is robbed of his humanity and needs to be freed. So, Nelson Mandela cared for both the oppressed as well as the oppressor. This is an end to the chapter. Thank you, students. That's all.